Minecraft has over 1500 unique items and I decided to get every single one of them in a hardcore world. So lay back, enjoy, dress appropriately, and let me tell you the story of how I got every single item in Minecraft. Before I should even think about starting to collect every item, I need to get an elytra. Otherwise I would spend way more time than I need to. And to get an elytra, I need to beat Minecraft. Some people might think that beating Minecraft is difficult, but let me tell you, it's actually super easy if you know the quirks of the game. Firstly, get a lot of food, preferably pork or beef. Food regeneration is insanely broken, so use it. Next, just get as many diamonds as fast as possible. Just rush into a cave, ignore mobs and heal with food. As soon as you have diamond armor, you can actually tank some hits. Lastly, don't ego mobs, especially never mobs. Just because you can now tank some hits and regenerate the damage you take, doesn't mean that you're immortal. You can still very much die if you get too cocky and jump into every fight. There is actually one more tip, but I'll get into that as soon as it's relevant. After getting blaze rods and pearls, I was almost ready to take on the ender dragon. Since I usually go end busting immediately after defeating the ender dragon to get good enchanted gear, I wanted to get a mending and unbreaking free book for the elytra and a looting free book to get more gunpowder. That way I can immediately go for a lot of end cities without having to leave the end super quick. The easiest way to get those two books is to find a village, get a Fletcher and trade sticks for emeralds. Then reset the librarian till you get your desired book. As soon as I had the books, a lot of blocks, preferably logs, an anvil and some rockets, I made my way to the stronghold. By the way, the stronghold libraries sometimes have decent enchanted books, so it's probably worth looking for them. And one abysmal end spawn and one dragon fight later, I finally had access to the gateway and could finally do my favorite thing in Minecraft. Pressing shift like a madman so I don't fall off while I bridge over the void. Anyway, I got kinda lucky and found an end city rather quickly and got my elytra to finally start end busting. Well, at least up until I couldn't find the gateway, ran out of rockets and had to farm endstone to bridge back to the main island to leave the end. But I'm sure that this abysmal luck was just a one-off event. And that's what we call foreshadowing. Anyway, with the levels that I got from the ender dragon and all the end city loot, I managed to get full prot free armor. And since I had an unbreaking and mending villager, I added those enchants to all my armor pieces and tools that didn't have them. Okay, so what's next on the agenda? Totems. To minimize the risk of losing the run. Since evokers will appear on raids as long as you play on hard, all I need is a raid captain for an ominous bottle and then slurp said bottle in a village to trigger a raid. And remember when I said that I was gonna mention another tip as soon as it's relevant? The tip is just as elegant as it is simple, and it is just spam your bow. Ever since 1.9, the melee damage you deal is pitiful, even with the best enchants. However, the damage you deal with the bow was always higher than your melee damage and it remained unchanged. So, logically speaking, you should just spam your bow cause it deals more damage. But this is not the only advantage it has. Since Mojang seems to wing mob hitboxes, melee combat will result in some really odd hits. Those hits can be fully avoided by just bow spamming. In other words, if you can shoot a mob, just start spamming your bow. It works for about 99% of Minecraft mobs, as you can see in the footage of the raid. And that way you can easily defeat any raid, any warden, and so on. Now let's start with the actual challenge. To not make things super cluttered and confusing, I decided to group similar items into item categories. The first category shows the easiest items that you can obtain in Minecraft. The second category will show items that are slightly more difficult to obtain, and so on. However, the last category will be all the items that were so forgettable that I had to manually track them down in an Excel sheet. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, for me an item is defined by its F3 and H tag in Minecraft. That way we all have the same definition of what an item is supposed to be. So the first category of items is and probably always will be everything stone related, simply because of the stone cutter. All of the stone variants are somewhat straightforward to get, so I'm not gonna bother mention the super simple ones. If there's an odd way of obtaining a type of stone, I'm gonna mention it. To obtain all the stone items, you just need blackstone, polished blackstone bricks, polished blackstone, a piece of gilded blackstone, tough bricks, polished tough, cobbled deep slate, polished deep slate bricks, deep slate tiles, dripstone, a block of resin that can be obtained by hitting a creaking during night and mining the orange residue, resin bricks, the stuff you get from smelting resin, packed mud, smooth stone that is obtained by smelting stone, calcite, netherrack, nether brick that you can get by either smelting netherrack to get nether bricks to craft the nether bricks, say that 3 times fast, or just by yoinking it from the nether fortress. Red nether brick that are only craftable using nether bricks and nether wart, stone bricks, mossy cobblestone, mossy stone bricks, cobblestone, andesite, diorite and granite and their polished versions, sandstone and red sandstone and their smooth variants that are obtainable the same way as smooth stone, purple and stone bricks, quartz, smooth quartz, basalt, bricks, dark prismarine, prismarine bricks, prismarine and a sea lantern. After getting the types, just put them in the stone cutter and get the different subversions of the stone stuff like the walls, the slabs, etc. There are, however, 9 stone items that are not obtainable via a stone cutter. Those are the correct versions of nether bricks, deep slate tiles, polished blackstone bricks, stone bricks. All of them are obtainable by just putting the bricks into a furnace. Furthermore, you cannot obtain a stone and polished blackstone button and pressure plate by a stone cutter. Adding up all the different stone items, we already have 169 items, or roughly 11% of all items. Okay, so what's next? I guess it's everything wood related then. So what do you guys need to know about the wood section? There are 12 different types of wood in the game, with them being spruce, mangrove, pale oak, dark oak, cherry, acacia, birch, jungle, oak, bamboo, crimson and warped. Unfortunately, there is currently no carpenter table in the game that would do the same work as a stone cutter, but for wood. So you have to craft everything manually. To obtain every single wood related item, you need a sapling, the leaves, a log, wood, a stripped log, stripped wood, planks, slabs, a boat with a chest, a sign, a hanging sign, a door, a wrap door, a fence gate, a button, a pressure plate, stairs, and a shelf for every type of wood, except warped, crimson, and bamboo. For warped and crimson wood, you need a warped and a crimson mushroom instead of the sapling, and never warped blocks instead of the leaves. You are also unable to craft crimson and warped boats because Mojang. So you should keep that in mind. Everything besides that is obtainable the same way as it is for the regular logs. However, bamboo is even more confusing with its items since it doesn't have any leaves and technically not even wood and not even a real sapling. Instead, it uses a piece of bamboo to substitute the sapling. The pieces of bamboo can be used to craft a block of bamboo, the bamboo equivalent of logs. But that is not all that is unique about bamboo, since it also has two sets of planks. The regular ones and the mosaic ones that can be both used to craft unique stairs and slabs. Everything that is not mentioned can also be obtained the same way as for regular logs. This is everything that is directly made out of wood, but I also put some items into this category even though they are not made out of wood, but are super closely related. Those items are a regular and a flowering azalea, their leaves, podzol, grass, pale and regular moss, moss and pale moss carpet, mycelium, warped and crimson nylium, rooted dirt and dirt, a red and a brown mushroom and their full blocks, a mushroom stem, and I also added the crimson and warped roots, twisting and hanging vines, pale hanging moss, a shroom light, and finally a creaking heart and regular and muddy mangrove roots. If we add up all these items to our previous item total, we now have 427 items, or about 28%. And if you think this jump up is crazy, just wait for the next category. The next category is about everything color related, or how I like to call it, the World of Color section. You know, because of the World of Color update in Minecraft. Anyway, to get every color related item, you first need the 16 different colors in Minecraft. These are red, yellow, blue, black, white, gray, light gray, orange, green, purple, lime, pink, magenta, cyan, light blue, and brown. And just a quick tip, the best way for magenta dye is using lilac. For pink it's peony, and for blue it's lapis. Unfortunately, all the other dyes are somewhat annoying to get because you can't bone meal the different colored flowers to get more of them. That means that you might be better off crafting orange dye with red and yellow dye. But it's really up to you how you get the dyes. I don't judge. Anyway, when you have all the dyes, you need them to craft every colored version of a bundle, a banner, a wool block, a bed, a carpet, regular and glazed terracotta, a candle, concrete powder and concrete, a shulker box, a harness, glass and glass pane. In addition to these, you need the uncolored versions of terracotta, candle, shulker box, glass and glass pane. Then you should also add clay, clay balls, gravel and tinted glass to get everything that is closely related to the color related items. Oh yeah, And if you're like me and you want one version of each item, you need a total of at least 35 shulker shells and 17 candles. If you add up these items to our total item count, we're now at 674 items, or 44%. Because I spent a lot of time in one area just crafting, I wanted to explore a bit. And I know just the item group that will do the job. The 10 banner patterns and the Mobheads. But even though the group is small, getting all of them is far from easy, and it will take a lot of time. Luckily, out of the 10 patterns, 6 are craftable. Those are the Skull, the Thing, the Field Mason, the Border Intent, the Flower Charge, and the Creeper pattern. The uncraftable ones are the Snout, the Globe, the Guster, and the Flow pattern. For the Snout pattern, you need to find a Bastion. The Guster and Flow pattern require a Trial Chamber, and the Globe pattern can be obtained when trading with a master level cartographer. But don't think that the craftable ones are super easy. The Border Intent pattern can be crafted with vines, the Field Mason with bricks, and the Flower Charge with an Oxydaisy. Okay, so far so good. I currently see nothing crazy. For the Skull pattern, you need a Wither Skull. Oh, okay, like that's still very much doable. For the Thing pattern, you need a God Apple. What? You need a God Apple for a banner pattern? And for the Creeper pattern, you need a Creeper head. Okay, like what the actual... Yeah, that seems like a big task ahead, but don't worry, I got some tips for you. Okay, so I don't think that the Flower, Border, Field Mason or Globe pattern will cause any major problems, so I won't be focusing on them. Since you need a Bastion for the Snout pattern, you will have to encounter some Piglin brutes. And a lot of people seem to have problems defeating them, since they hit like a truck and have a lot of HP. Now, remember the fourth tip. Use your bow. You can easily bow them down, and that way they don't pose a threat. But there's another way of fighting them effectively. Well, you see, it would suck being a Nether mob and not being fire resistant. You can just use a lava bucket to burn them. And the loot won't be affected at all since it's stored in chests. So it isn't necessarily easy to fight brutes, but it's not tedious or difficult at all. The patterns that are way worse to get are the Trial Chamber ones. Why, you may ask? Because of the way you find Trial Chambers. If you don't want to poke random holes in your world in hopes of finding a Trial Chamber, you should get a Trial Explorer map from a cartographer. And this is where the problem starts. Cartographers might, and I repeat, might trade you a Trial Explorer map on level 3. That means that you have to level up a cartographer to level 2, which will cost you at least 71 emeralds. Then, if you're lucky, you get the glass pen trade to regain some of your emeralds. But if you don't get the glass pen trade, you will have to level up the cartographer with compasses. And let me tell you something, farming large quantities of compasses is really annoying. And after all of that, you might not even get the Explorer map on level 3 and have to start with a different cartographer. But this is not where the problem ends. You can't just clear the Trial Chamber and go back to the cartographer that traded you the map to the Trial Chamber and get a new one. No. This would be fun and could encourage you to actually explore. No, you have to go through the process of trading up an entirely new cartographer. Because the rule is one cartographer will trade you only one map towards one Trial Chamber. But this is not even the worst part. In order to guarantee that your newly level up cartographer actually gives you a map with the location of a new trial chamber and not the same map your previous cartographer gave you, you just go to a new village. God almighty, can you please change this stupid game mechanic? Anyway, to get the floor banner pattern, you need to open ominous vaults. That means you need ominous keys that you can only obtain via an ominous trial. Ominous trials are triggered by chugging an ominous bottle in a trial chamber. And you might be wondering what the difference between a regular and an ominous trial is. Basically, you get twice the amount of mobs thrown at you. That's about it. That difference unfortunately means that there's no way around getting mending or unbreaking free armor anymore, because the sheer amount of mobs will just drain your armor in no time. The custom pattern, on the other hand, can be found in regular vaults or in select chests within a trial chamber. And here's another tip how to deal with the mob spamming. For zombies, slimes, and spiders, you can use a lava bucket to clear the waves faster. With the trial chamber being done for now, let me tell you about the second instance of me getting absolutely shafted by my abysmal luck. Since I need 8 wither skulls in total for the skull pattern and other related stuff that I will get into in the next section, I decided to get all the skulls in one swoop, because getting wither skulls is not fun and I really don't want to do this several times. In order to gain the largest amount of wither skeleton spawns, you should locate a Salt Sand Valley fortress. But if you don't get lucky, like me, a Basalt Delta one will work just as fine. If you pair that with an 8.5% chance of getting a skull if you have a looting free sword, you should need about 94 wither skeletons to get all the skulls you need. Now guess how many skeletons I had to kill while having looting free. 245. 245. While having looting free. Just saying, the average person would have gotten 13 heads. 13. Statistically speaking, 92% of people would have gotten more skulls than me. Yeah, but I'm sure this will be the last bit of bad luck in this run. And that's what we call foreshadowing. Now, some of you might wonder how you can get the Mobheads in survival Minecraft, or if they are unobtainable. The skeleton head is quote unquote the easiest one, because it spawns naturally in an ancient city. And since god apples frequently spawn there and you need one for the thing pattern, you should definitely locate an ancient city. The dragon head also spawns naturally, but on end ships. The zombie, creeper and piglin heads, however, do not spawn naturally and are only obtainable when a charged creeper blows up one of these 3 mobs. And here's the important part. The rule is 1 head per charged creeper. If you explode a charged creeper in a crowd full of mobs, you will still only get 1 head. Now, how can somebody charge up a creeper? Well, unfortunately, the only way is to wait until a thunderstorm occurs, and you might need several thunderstorms to complete the section, because the amount of lightning you get is also completely random, unless you have a channeling trident. On average, you have to wait about 8 real life hours to guarantee a thunderstorm in your world. And during this time, you should not sleep in order to maximize the odds. Now, you might feel deflated because you think that you need a channeling trident too to get the Mobheads, but there is actually a way that works better and does not require a channeling trident at all. Introducing the lightning rod. The lightning rod will attract lightning bolts when it starts to thunder. So what you want to do is go to a large flat surface with some boats in your inventory, and when you see a creeper close nearby, you place down a lightning rod and start to dance around it in circles until lightning hits and the creeper is charged. Now you want to place a boat and catch the creeper in it. That way the charged creeper won't despawn and you can use it to your desire. Okay, and now for the hardest part, the piglin head. This is super difficult and has a high margin of error. Theoretically, you could put the charged creeper in the Nether and hope for the best when you go through yourself. But I would strongly recommend that you don't do that, because the creeper might blow up as soon as you exit the Nether portal and you lose all progress and might have to wait another 8 hours. You're far better off by getting a piglin out of the Nether, but there's a catch, because this whole process isn't difficult and confusing enough already. Piglins transform in the overworld to zombified piglins, and they do not drop heads. That means that you have to minimize the time between a piglin exiting the Nether and the creeper blowing it up. And here's how you do that. You need a charged creeper in a boat, a flint and steel, and a Nether portal. You place the Nether portal about 7 blocks away from the creeper and build a railing that leads towards the boat in which the creeper sits. Make sure that everything is blocked off and nothing can interfere with you. Then you block off the side of the portal that does not face the creeper. That way the piglin is forced to run towards the creeper when it exits the portal. Now you go in the Nether and lead a piglin through the portal. Then you have to act fast. Go through the portal and punch the piglin towards the creeper if necessary. Then ignite the creeper by right clicking it with the flint and steel. Then collect the piglin head. This is genuinely the most stressful thing in the entire game, because it has such high sunk costs when you mess up. And as you can see, I even popped a totem because I wasn't gonna wait another 8 hours for a thunderstorm. Maybe one last thing before closing this. Always remember, piglins are easy to replace. Charged creepers aren't. So if you take too long, just bow the zombified piglin down and grab a new piglin. We're at 711 items, or about 47%, and I really need a week off now. At this point I was really fed up and wanted to have something simple that is fun. So I decided to fight 2 withers because I needed a beacon, a wither rose, and another nether star due to my rule set. I'm just mentioning the wither rose here so that you know that it's related to the wither itself. I'll get to how to effectively obtain this stupid thing in the part where I collect all the flowers. Okay, what do you need to know when fighting the wither? Well, the most important thing is to never actually fight it on the surface, and to not stay next to it when it loses its invincibility, because the explosion it causes will hurt you badly. The best way of defeating a wither is to shove it into an underground 3x3 space and build a 2x1 tunnel leading away from it. As soon as you can attack the wither, just bow spam it from your tunnel until it activates its shield. At this point, you should start hitting it with your sword, but make sure that you don't get too close to it. Keep your distance. If you stay in the tunnel and did everything correctly, the wither should be busy removing the blocks and can't attack you while you're hitting it. Okay, where are we now? Yeah, the smithing templates. Now, did you ever think that regular armor looks boring, but you didn't want to install a texture pack? Well, I got just the item group for you. With the smithing templates, even the most boring armor set can make your skin look like you're the ruler of the Netherworld. Get them today at these 13 exclusive locations in the Minecraft world. The smithing templates itself are super straightforward to obtain. You just need the corresponding structure and some luck, or in my case, a lot of luck. While beating Minecraft, I already gotten the item from the Stronghold library, where it is guaranteed to spawn. While farming shulkers, I already got the spire trim from an ant city, got the snout trim and upgrade template from a bastion while looking for the snout banner pattern, and the flow trim from a trial chamber while looking for the flow and guster banner pattern. And just a quick side note, to get the flow trim you need to do ominous trials, aka open ominous vaults. In case you just skipped through and just need a little tip on how to do them a little better, just have a look in the banner pattern section where I explain in detail how you can do the ominous trial a bit better. That means that I still need another trial chamber folded bolt armor trim, a woodland mansion for the vex trim, a pillager outpost for the sentry trim, an ancient city for the ward and the silence trim, an elder guardian kill for the tie trim, a jungle temple for the wild trim, a shipwreck for the coast trim, a desert temple for the dune trim, a nether fortress for the rip trim, and a trail rune for the host, shaper, razor, and wayfinder trim. I think every structure besides the ancient city, the woodland mansion, the trial chamber, and the trail rune should cause no problem, since you just have to fly around and randomly find them. And concerning Bob the Elder Guardian, you just have to do the good old trick that is placing a sand block above TNT, then lining it so that it can break the blocks underwater. And although I didn't need to do it here, Bob is absolutely walled by doors, because he can't attack you at all and you can't drown either, because the doors give you an air pocket. But I still have some tips on how to make finding the troublesome structures a little less painful. Like I already explained in the banner pattern section, you should trade up a cartographer for a trial explorer map. The same applies for the mansion, but you need a woodland explorer map instead. And if you don't get the bolt armor trim or the vex trim in the first structure, just follow the rules that I explained in the banner pattern section to save you from a lot of pain. Unfortunately, you can't do the same for the ancient city or the trail rune, and trail runes are by far the worst thing to look for, even when flying around, because they are almost completely buried and the only thing you can see are some terracotta blocks. They look almost exactly like pumpkins when you are flying. But there is a saving grace, if you like to call it that way. Trail runes will only spawn in taiga, snowy taiga, old growth spruce taiga, old growth pine taiga, old growth birch forest, and the jungle, so you only have to full clear these biomes. However, there is a good way of poking effectively for ancient cities. Ancient cities will only spawn in the caves and cliffs biomes. That means beneath a grove, a snowy slope, a meadow, a frozen peaks, a stony peaks, or a jagged peaks, and only when the biome has a decent size. So whenever you find a big biome from that list, dig straight down to -52 and look if you find an ancient city. And now let me tell you how you can safely play an ancient city without any wool blocks. But first you need to understand that a Shrieker will only spawn a Warden after getting triggered 4 times in 10 minutes. So you want to use your first strikes to clear the portal of any Shriekers that are either on top or directly in the portal. Once you've done this, you have a safe base camp on top of the portal where no Warden can reach you. Now you want to fly back and forth between your base camp and the chests you want to loot. Now, here's a fun fact. If you're fast enough when looting the chests and exiting the area, you can completely avoid the darkness effect. However, if you don't manage to avoid it, just chill in your base camp until it's gone. Take note where the Wardens are and rinse and repeat. Now, remember all the foreshadowing about my abysmal luck? Well, it peaked here. Especially with the stupid pillager outpost and the godforsaken ancient city. And some of you might know which item stalled me for 48 hours straight and made me travel over 100,000 blocks. The rare, the beloved Silence Armor Trim. This thing has a 1% chance of occurring in an ancient city chest, so you have to open an average of 100 chests. With an ancient city having a random amount of chests that is somewhere between 15 to 30 chests, depending on the size, that means you need about 3 to 6 ancient cities. Now guess how many chests I looted and how many ancient cities I needed. 450 chests and 18 ancient cities. And keep in mind, I am doing this 100% vanilla with no seed calculator. The part with the 48 hours isn't an exaggeration. It is genuinely how long I looked for this stupid thing. Oh yeah, and I did something similar with the Sentry trim, where I needed 20 different outposts for the trim. That is on the level of a statistical outlier, by the way, but at least the outposts are on the surface and not underground. But I am sure this will be the last time my luck will be abysmal. And actually, yes. Oh, by the way, I'm still not even at the halfway point. You know what? I think it's time to make a lot of progress, and there's one large item group that I really didn't want to do up until now because of how long it takes and how unflexible you are while getting items. The group I'm talking about is everything copper related. If you're a builder, you might know why it takes so long to get everything. The amazing mechanic that is oxidization. Look, I think having oxidization in the game is super cool, but please, just add another way of oxidizing copper to the next stage, because it currently is just up to the mercy of game ticks. If you copper oxidizes, and spoiler alert, it took 7 hours again, filled with just waiting till my copper items fully oxidized. You know, like, you could make it that right-clicking copper with a water bottle gets it to the next oxidization state. That way I don't have to spend an entire workday waiting for my virtual copper to turn blue. But don't worry, guys. I got you covered, and I have some tips on how to minimize the amount of copper you have to oxidize, so you don't have to spend as much time as you would otherwise. As you might have guessed, you need another trial chamber, but at least this time you don't have to clear it. Firstly, you're gonna grab a stack of fully oxidized copper blocks and 30 of the unoxidized copper blocks. Then you're gonna look around the trial chamber and try to get as many copper bulbs and copper doors as possible. preferably in different oxidization states. You might as well look for honeycomb in the trial chamber as it spawns frequently in chests. But if you can't find any, it's not that big of a deal. You just have to get some from beehives done. Okay, now that we have the resources, let me tell you the strategy. You scrape the oxidized copper down to the level that you desire and put it in a stone cutter to get the different versions. Then you wax it. The strategy works beautifully for obtaining the regular copper block, chiseled copper, copper grades, cut copper stairs, and cut copper slabs. Now, we can also knock off the different versions of the copper bulb and the copper door, because although you can't get them via a stone cutter, we should have gathered enough of them in the trial chamber to just scrape them down to fill out the pieces we're missing. We can also apply the same strategy to get all copper golems and copper chest versions. We just put the oxidized copper block down, put pumpkins above them, and proceed to shear set pumpkins. Using oxidized copper will cause an oxidized copper golem and an oxidized copper chest to spawn that we then can scrape down. Unfortunately, there is no way of getting any oxidized versions of a copper trapdoor, copper bars, copper chains, copper lanterns, or lightning rods, and they are also not obtainable via a stone cutter. This means that you have to place them down and just wait for them to oxidize. And for some reason, the copper torch is the only item that isn't copper related that doesn't oxidize. So, hey, at least you don't have to wait for this item to oxidize then. Adding up all the different copper items in the 4 oxidization states and in their waxed and non-waxed variants brings the item total to 832 items. Now, may I offer you some flowers? Because I've gathered a lot of them for this section, and technically also coral, but coral is not really a flower, but I didn't really know where else to put it. At first glance, flowers in Minecraft seem pretty simple, but of course, some of them are absolutely annoying to obtain. Because why wouldn't they be? Let's start with the straightforward ones. Dandelions, poppies, azure bluets, cornflower, grass, bushes, and oxydaisies can be obtained anywhere by bone mealing a grass block. Hanging roots are obtained by bone mealing rooted dirt. Peonies, rose bushes, leaf litter, lily of the valley, lilacs, and firefly bushes can be found in forests. Ferns are exclusive to taiga biomes, while seagrass can be sheared from the ocean floor. Alliums and wildflowers generate in meadows. Pink petals only spawn in cherry groves. Sunflowers are exclusive to sunflower plains. The closed and the open eye blossom are technically the same flower in different states and are only found in the pear garden. The open version appears at night, the closed version appears during the day. Red, orange, pink, and white tulips are exclusive to flower forests. Blue orchids and lily pads are only found in swamps. Dead bushes, cacti, cactus flowers, and both short and tall dry grass are exclusive to deserts. Spore blossom, as well as small and big drip leaf, are exclusive to lush caves. Sea pickles, along with the 5 coral variants, tube, brain, bubble, fire, and horn, appear as full blocks, regular coral, and coral fans, and are all exclusively found in coral reefs. Chorus flower can be obtained by shooting them off a chorus plant. Glow lichen is found in every cave, and vines spawn on trees. Finally, the golden dandelion is craftable. Now, those were the easy flowers, the one that you can just get by flying around in the overworld. Now it gets more complicated. You can actually upturn large fern and tall grass in survival, but only from village chests. Large ferns spawn only in taiga villages, and tall grass only spawns in savanna villages. And then there's the Wither Rose. Like I already said, when fighting the Wither Rose is somehow related to him. The only way of obtaining a Wither Rose is by having the Wither kill a neutral mob, like a sheep. When said mob dies, it drops the flower. Fighting the Wither on the surface is a terrible idea, but it is actually the least tedious way of getting the Wither Rose. So, if you do it, be very careful and have a lot of golden apples to heal. And now, I finally get to experience my favorite game mechanic, Archeology. Nothing says fun like right-clicking a block for 4 seconds and hoping for a useful item. Unfortunately for me, 2 flowers and their seeds are locked behind this system. The pitcher plant and the torch flower. To get them, you need a sniffer, which doesn't spawn naturally. So first you need a sniffer egg. Sniffer eggs can only be obtained through brushing suspicious sand in lukewarm ocean ruins. Once you have one, just place it on moss so it hatches faster. And just a heads up, keep an eye on your sniffer because they seem to have a death wish. Anyway, another totally unrelated trip to a lukewarm ocean ruin, and several hours later, I finally got the seeds and the flowers to finish this group for good. By the way, we're now at 911 items, or about 60%. You know what? I'm in the mood for some good music. So let's get all the music discs in Minecraft. You can divide the music discs into 3 categories nowadays. The first category is composed of the 12 OG discs, being 13, Cat, Blocks, Chirp, Far, Maul, Melohi, Stall, Strat, Ward, 11, and Wait. All those discs can be obtained if a skeleton kills a creeper. And don't worry, I got a simple contraption that will just do the job. Just make sure that you don't put more than 3 creepers in the hole, otherwise they will start blowing up one another and hinder your progress. Unfortunately, it will still take several nights to collect all the OG discs due to the RNG element. Okay, the second category are the discs that are only obtainable in structures. There are 7 discs that are obtainable in 4 different structures. Those structures are an ancient city, a trail rune, a bastion, and oh my god, I need another trial chamber? In the ancient city, you need to find a copy of Oversight and 10 disc fragments to craft 5. In a trail room, you actually just need to find relic by brushing suspicious gravel. In the bastion, you need to find a copy of Pigstab. And in the trial chamber, you need to open regular vaults for Precipice, ominous vaults for Creator, and destroy the decorated pots that generate in the trial chamber for Creator music box. The last category are the new discs that are tied to mob kills. For tiers, you need to do the Return to Sender advancement, aka kill a ghast with its own fireball. And for Lava Chicken, you need to kill a chicken jockey. But it is important that you kill the zombie first, otherwise you won't get the disc. Now, let's set all this up to a total, and we're now at 932 items. Now that I've done Archeology twice, and since it's such banger content, why don't I just continue and collect all the sherds? There are 23 different pottery sherds that are tied to 6 different structures. You need to find another trial chamber. But I promise, this is the last time you need one. Here you have to destroy the decorated pots with a sword to get the scrape, guster, and the flow sherd. Then you need a trail rune for the burn, danger, friend, heart, heartbreak, sheath and howl sherd. A cold ocean rune for the mourner, blade, explorer and plenty sherd. A warm ocean rune for the snort, shelter and angler sherd. A desert well for the arms up and brewer sherd. And lastly is the desert temple for the archer, skull, prize and miner sherd. Now, after all this amazing fun of right-clicking blocks for several seconds, we have a total of 957 items. We now reach the point where the really painful stuff begins. Starting with the most overrated ore in the game, Netherrite. Since I want a copy of each item, I have to get a Netherrite block, a Netherrite ingot, Netherrite scrap, Netherrite helmet, chestplate, leggings, boots, sword, pickaxe, axe, shovel, hoe, spear, and a block of ancient debris. Now, I also need to get a Netherrite horse armor and a Netherrite Nautilus armor, and I just want to emphasize that you should never, ever, ever craft those two items that I just mentioned. However, since I am a professional idiot, I'm gonna get them both. In total, for all these, you need exactly 90 ancient debris, which is a tall task, to say the least. Now, there are two ways of getting Netherrite. The first way is to go to a treasure bastion and start looking in the center chest, because Netherrite ingots will frequently spawn there. And there's also a chance for a double Netherrite ingot. Again, you will have to deal with pigment brutes, but remember, it would suck being a Nether mob and not being fire resistant. And let me tell you, I am so thankful that I got lucky and found 5 ingots, 5 ancient debris and 2 scraps in Bastion, therefore knocking down the total amount of ancient debris I had to get to just, quote unquote, 63. The second way is far less risky than the first way, but it is far more painful. You might have seen bad bombing, but I find that bad bombing and the prep work you have to do is far less efficient than just mining Netherrack. I understand that you might not want to risk breaking your main pickaxe, but don't worry, I got you covered. You know, Netherrack will insta-mine as long as you have at least an efficiency-free diamond pickaxe. So what you want to do is get to level 30 and enchant as many diamond pickaxes as possible. Now you want to grab every pickaxe that has at least efficiency 3 and start mining for ancient debris on level 16. Press F3 and G to see the chunk borders and start mining along them. And even though it might sting, use the pickaxes until they break. That way you get the most amount of value out of them. Using the setting strategy, it took me about 2 hours and 9 pickaxes to get the remaining ancient debris. After that big pain, I'm up to 971 unique items and about 64%. And you know, now that I have this useless but at least cool looking armor, let's just complete all the tools, weapons and armor sets. You need a helmet, chestplate, leggings and boots out of leather, chain, copper, gold, iron, diamond and Netherite. Just keep in mind that I currently have all the Netherite tools and armor in my inventory, so they're not in the chest. All of them, except the chain armor, are straightforward. For the chain armor you either have to hope that a mob drops it to you, or you just shred it with an armorer that will have at least 2 pieces of chain armor for you. For the bottom pieces you need a level 1 armorer, and for the top pieces you need a level 2 armorer. Plus, you also need a turtle shell. An absolutely awful item that you should never go for because it takes ages to get and it is as good as an iron helmet. Anyway, In order to get this godforsaken item, you need to breed 2 turtles, grab their eggs and protect them, because if everything gets even remotely close to them, they will break and you will have to start over. And the best part is that the eggs will only hatch or crack at night, meaning that you can't sleep and phantoms are gonna start bothering you. As soon as they hatch, you can get the 5 scoots for the turtle shell and the extra scoot if you play by my rule set as soon as the turtles grow up. But don't worry, this will only take about 3 hours, I think. Next thing on the agenda is getting a spear, sword, hoe, axe, shovel and pickaxe out of wood, stone, copper, gold, iron, diamond and netherite. Now there are only 4 items left in this group to get. Those are a bow, a crossbow, a trident and a mace. The bow poses no problem and I can trade with a fletcher for the crossbow. The trident and the mace are annoying to get, and of course I need another trial chamber for it, cause why wouldn't I? I will save you from me just mindlessly grinding ominous trials until I get 2 heavy cores for my rule set. As for the trident, if you're extremely lucky, like extremely, you can get one from an ominous vault, but if you're like me, you should just look for an ocean rune and hopefully a drowned holding a trident will spawn and it will actually drop in. Then you should also remember that the shield exists, also add it to your chest and bring your total to 1038 items. Now, sometimes you just really yearn for the mines. So why don't I just get all the different ores and the variants? Yes, even the elusive, legendary and painfully rare deep slate emerald ore. There are 10 ores in Minecraft, or 11 if you consider ancient debris as an ore. Those are emerald, coal, copper, gold, lapis, redstone, iron, diamond, ancient debris, quartz and never gold ore. Let's address the obvious. All the ores besides deep slate coal and deep slate emerald are super easy to get. But unfortunately I don't have any tips for you how to get those 2 effectively, since they are simply fully RNG based. The best shot of getting deep slate emerald ore is probably to just go to a meadow, a cherry grove, a snowy slope, a jagged peaks, a frozen peaks, a stony peaks, a windswept hills, a windswept gravelly hills, or a windswept forest, and just mine each block from y equals 0 to y equals -16 and hope for the best. You might want to know how I got the deep slate emerald ore. Well, during my crusade to find the silence shrimp, I did whatever this is. If it only was that easy in all worlds. And as far for deep slate coal ore, you can find it in every biome from y equals -4 to y equals 3. So basically the same strategy applies. Just dig, hope and repeat. All that's left to do is add all the related stuff to the chest. Them being the actual resource you can get out of the ore, a block of said resource. Then you also need to add a raw gold, raw iron and raw copper block and a nugget for each of the 3. Plus I also decided to add an iron door, iron bars and a regular chain because I didn't know where else I could put them. And they have iron in their name, so don't judge me. Now we're at 1060 78 items. Okay, like, is anybody else hungry? No, just me. Anyway, let's get all the food in the game. By the way, if you have all the versions of food, you can just complete the balanced diet advancement if you like. Okay, you can divide this into 3 sections. First section is every piece of food that can be bought from a villager. You can get rabbit stew, cooked chicken and cooked pork chop from a butcher, a cake, stew, apples, pumpkin pie, cookies and golden carrots from a farmer, and cooked salmon and cooked cod from a fisherman. The next section is every piece of food that is obtainable basically everywhere, but unfortunately not from villagers. Those items are raw chicken, raw and cooked mutton, raw and cooked rabbit, puffer fish, raw and cooked beef, raw cod, raw salmon, clownfish, rotten flesh and spider eye. The last section is every piece of food that can be farmed in some way or form. First, you have beetroot soup, mushroom stew, beetroot, sweet berries, melon and glistering melon, even though you can't eat glistering melon, but I didn't know where else to put it. Raw, cooked and poisonous potato, carrot, dried kelp, chorus flower, honey, and irregular and enchanted golden apple. Okay, those were all the items that I could comfortably put into a group, meaning we now get into the forgettable item territory. And guess what? When I was going through the Excel sheet, I immediately noticed that I completely forgot all the redstone items. And the villager workstations. And the Mobdrops. And general farm stuff. Yeah, that wasn't really one of my proudest moments, but at least it is what the Excel sheet is for. Well, then I had to go back and collect the 34 redstone items that I forgot, being a honey and a slime block, an observer, a dispenser, a repeater, a redstone torch, and a comparator, a dropper, and a hopper, a trap chest, a tripwire hook, a golden and an iron pressure plate, a piece of TNT, a regular and a sticky piston, a crafter, an iron trapdoor, a redstone lamp, a lever, a clock, a target, and a note block, and a calibrated skulk sensor. And don't forget that the rails and the minecarts also count as redstone items, so I still had to get a regular, a furnace, a TNT, a hopper, and a minecart with a chest, and lastly a detector, an activator, a regular, and a powered rail. For the 13 villager workstations that I forgot, I needed to get a lectern, a cartography table, a smithing table, a smoker, a barrel, a stone cutter, a loom, a grindstone, a fletching table, a blast furnace, a composter, a cauldron, and a brewing stand. For the Mobdrops, I needed magma cream, blaze rods, blaze powder, gas tiers, a nether star, breeze rods, wind charges, rotten flesh, phantom membrane, slime balls, rabbit's foot, and rabbit's hide, leather, bones, ink and glow ink sack, gunpowder, spider eye, an arrow, string, shulker shell, a feather, a prismarine shards and crystal, ender pearl, and an eye of the ender. Now, those aren't all the Minecraft Mobdrops, because it wouldn't be a Minecraft category if there weren't any dumb Mobdrops, just for the sake of making things complicated. The scoot can be obtained by waiting next to an armadillo or just brushing it. And nowadays there are 3 types of eggs: regular, brown and blue. The regular one drops by chicken in temperate biomes, the brown one drops by chickens in warm biomes, and the blue one is dropped by chickens in cold biomes. Having all these items added another 28 to the total. Just keep in mind that I already counted the rotten flesh and the spider in the food section. And lastly, for the farm stuff, I added a melon, a pumpkin and both of their seed, a carved pumpkin, a jack-o'-lantern, beetroot seeds, neverwort, cocoa beans, wheat and wheat seeds, sugarcane, a hay bale, a cactus, kelp, and lastly, a piece of paper. No, just look at this chest. All of those items were so unbelievably forgettable that I tracked them down one by one. The majority of them is craftable, so if there's an item that is worth talking about, I'm gonna mention it. Buckle up. This is gonna be messy. Glowstone, glowstone dust, scaffolding, regular and glowing item frame, fishing rod, carrot and warp fungus on a stick, soul and regular campfire, sugar, block of dried kelp, coarse dirt, magma block, sticks, ender's chest, furnace, fermented spider eye, saddle, chest, bone wheel, book, book and quill, flint and steel, lodestone, bone block, fire charge, crafting table, lead, compass, armor stand, painting, totem of undying, firework rocket, regular and chiseled bookshelf, enchanting table, obsidian, ladder, decorated pot, enchanted and written book, empty and filled map, wolf armor, cobweb that is only obtainable by shearing it in a mineshaft, regular, packed and blue eyes, heart of the sea that you get 100% of the time in a buried treasure chest, a bee's nest and a beehive, firework star and crystal, the 3 stages of an anvil, easily obtainable by just dropping the anvil continuously, respawn anchor, dragon egg, honeycomb block and honeycomb, skulk vein, recovery compass that is literally useless in this world and is crafted with 8 echo shards from an ancient city, skulk sensor, echo shard, ominous and regular trial key, beacon, heavy core, skulk shrieker and catalyst, soul torch and soul lantern, regular torch and lantern, crying obsidian. Nautilus shells can be obtained in 3 different ways nowadays. 1. By fishing. Don't do that. 2. By trading with a wandering trader. Highly unlikely to happen, but it actually happened for me. And the best way is just killing Nautilus. Gonna need 9 because you need 8 for the conduit. Other items. Turtle egg, conduit, scoot, dried gas, goat horn that is most easily found in pillager outposts. Snow, snowball and snow carpet. Wet and regular sponge that are found exclusively in ocean monuments in the sponge room or by killing Bob the Ender Guardian, who will drop a wet sponge on that. Flint and a flower pot. Small, medium and large amethyst, amethyst cluster, amethyst and block of amethyst. The 3 frog lights and oh god, we are in for an odyssey now. First we need slime balls, then we need to find a swamp that has 2 frogs. Then we breed them and wait until the tadpoles hatch. The next thing we do is put them in a bucket to store them. Now, since we already have one version of the frog, we can immediately build a nether portal and hope for a biome that has a magma cube spawn. After having put the frog into the nether, make sure he's in the boat. We don't want any accidents to happen. As soon as the frog eats the smallest possible magma cube, it will drop a frog light. Now, we have to locate a cold biome like a frozen river and a warm biome like a savanna, wait for the tadpoles to grow up in said biomes, and do the same thing we did for the first frog. That was way simpler than it was the last time. And now we also have to get the 11 different buckets, being tropical fish, tadpole, cod, salmon, pufferfish, axolotl that only spawns in lush caves, empty bucket, water bucket, lava bucket, milk bucket, and powder snow bucket. And here's my rule set coming into play with the F3H tag. All potions, regardless of the effect, have the tag Minecraft_potion. Therefore, I actually don't have to bro any. But I still have to get an ominous bottle, an empty bottle, a water bottle that is somehow a potion, a splash potion, a lingering potion, a bottle of enchanting, and dragon's breath that can be obtained by right-clicking the stuff the ender dragon shoots at you with an empty bottle. The final items that are missing are tipped arrows and spectral arrows, the different versions of the horse armor being leather, copper, gold, iron, diamond and netherite horse armor, and the same goes for the Nautilus armors minus the leather armor. So, what is the last item that I need to complete this challenge? a bell. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I hope that the video was somewhat helpful and entertaining. I'm not 100% sure if I mentioned every item by its name in my script, but rest assured that I actually have every item in my chest monster. Thank you guys for watching. Bye bye.